Going live. All right, welcome, everyone. Excited for this evening. We have a special guest. Our first time doing this, so I'm pretty pumped up. I know it'll take. We have a slight delay, so it'll take a little bit for you guys to hop on. But yeah, tonight's gonna be exciting. We're gonna get to hear from Josh, who went through our program and is a franchisee himself, and went through crossing the bridge, that hard, challenging bridge of going from full-time employee to entrepreneur. So, hey, Josh, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, thank you guys very much for having me. Yeah, it's been a blessing and a great experience.
Cool. So, just for everyone to know what your business is. So, what business are you in, and what do you do?
So going through the program, I originally had an idea to start a gym. I like fitness. That's always been a passion of mine. So I was like dead set. I want to run a gym. I want to open my own gym. Turns out I'm better at home services. So going through the progress and the process of looking at myself and what I'm good at, we came across home services, and I bought a franchise in home inspections called Housemaster.
Man, you just jogged my memory. I totally forgot about that conversation that we had when you were saying, "Yeah, man, I want to buy a gym and all this stuff." And I was like, you started telling me about how you'd started a flooring business before, right?
Yeah, so I've done flooring. I actually worked in restoration. We did floor maintenance, cleaning, and install, and then also fire, water damage stuff. So kind of a construction based, and then as a side gig during fires. So wintertime, I had a lot of free time, so I started installing flooring as a side gig.
Interesting. So I remember when we had talked, and you were like, "Man, I want to own a gym," but you live in a smaller community in town, not a huge population, and gyms are not cheap to get open, and you got to sign a lease and do a build out and buy all this equipment and all this stuff. And that's right. We had that conversation. I'm like, man, you should go into home services. Like, I think that's right up your alley.
Turned out it's exactly what I needed too. I mean, I'm talking financially, my work ethic and abilities. It just made sense all across. And I didn't know that until I went through the process.
Man, yeah. So yeah, it was exciting for Josh too. He's been like one of our, if anyone just in your business or whatever it is that you do, you have what you would call like an ideal client or coworker who just like follows everything to the T. They follow the advice and the instructions, and they're coachable. That was Josh the whole time. So you did awesome, man. But I'm curious, like tell everyone, like, what got you looking into franchising in the first place, and what did you do before owning the franchise?
So I've always kind of dabbled with the idea of owning my own business and kind of doing my own thing. And then once COVID hit, it really got my mind and those gears spinning. And then through COVID, just kind of work was like, oh man, this isn't where I need to be right now. So I decided to look further into it, came across your program, and just pulled the trigger and went for it.
Yeah, that's and so why not just go start your own thing, right? Like at that point you had started your own side hustle, you had made some money, you got clients. Like, I guess what was going on in your mind that you decided, well, I think I want to pursue this franchise route as opposed to just kind of doing this side hustle full time?
So I spent the last 10 years in the fire service. So kind of a guy that builds a bigger box. I guess you could say I like contingency plans, and franchise for me meant that those systems were in place. I had programs to follow. I had resources. I could have a phone number in my phone and not have to do any research for. That comforted me, as well as there's a plethora of people I can call. There's thousands of other franchise owners. I can be like, hey man, what's your process in this? And everybody's been super friendly and resourceful. Anytime I have a question, within 3-4 hours, I have an answer.
Yeah, it does. That's where I always got stuck before, Josh, is when because I had a bunch of side hustles too. And I would always get stuck in either being overwhelmed or not knowing what to do next or just focusing on the wrong things in the business, right? Where,
Yes.
the franchise system made such a difference in terms of just having someone to reach out to, or just instead of having to search for the answer for hours, to just be able to get the answer.
Exactly. And I'm that type of guy. Hey, I need that answer. I need it right now. But also, I was planning on, my son was diagnosed with diabetes and I couldn't go out on fires anymore. I had to be home. I had to stick to the home front. And I had to leave my profession as a fireman. And that in itself is scary. So that backing of the franchise definitely, and the process of going through like the reassurance and just all of the support that comes with franchising is amazing.
Mm. And so what's cool is that you were able to get profitable in the first 90 days of launching your business. You went into the business full time from the get-go. So I want to cover two things. Number one, like what was that like mentally and emotionally to make that leap with a family and to leave a job and go full time into this business? And then how were you able to get off to such a good start?
So the scariest. I was born and raised. You get a job, you put your time in, you retire, and that's what you do. Not only as a man, but as a provider for the family. Um, that that tr- that turn was probably the scariest thing I ever did. And the reason why I didn't let that fear overtake me is because it's going to be a better thing. I'm able to make my own schedule. And as far as becoming profitable, due diligence and just keep up with the process. The steps are there, just keep taking those steps.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so, and then, but I mean, it can be easier said than done, like getting off to the fast start. I know that you started doing some things before you even launched the business to start building a pipeline. So what do you think helped you get successful, so quickly and profitable in the business outside of following the system? Like what were you doing, tactics, strategies?
Before I even opened, I had already been putting bugs in people's ear. I had business cards before I was a business, and I was handing them out, putting bugs in people's ears, like, "Hey, just so you know, February 1st, I'm opening up. What's your schedule looking like? I'll be there if you need me." And it's forward, but not too forward, friendly forward, I call it. So I'm like, hey, here I am, but I'm gonna shake your hand and here's a beer before I leave. That kind of guy.
That's one of the things I had just loved about you when we would hop on the calls and you're like, man, I already got people lined up. I got centers of influences, people that already said they'll send me business, and you hadn't even signed the franchise agreement yet.
Yep.
And you were already lining things up.
Yep. So 6 months into this process, I'm now a preferred vendor, and I've only tapped into a quarter of my territory, and I'm profitable. I mean, like I was saying, so scary to leave my 9 to 5 or my career and to pull that trigger. But 6 months into it, I wish I did it when I was 18 years old.
I say the same thing. My biggest regret was not starting sooner. Like knowing what I know now, that's my biggest regret, not starting sooner.
And even if you started and failed, you know what? You learned it.
Yeah, so true. You fail forward, you keep learning, you adapt. And so what do you came into our system and program, and again, you just followed everything to the T. Like, how do you feel like the system helped you overall? And if you hadn't joined and reached out to us, do you think you would be in the business that you're in now?
I do not think so. Nope. I would have stuck to that gym plan. I probably would have either backed out because it would have been too much for me or pulled the trigger and gone under. I wasn't ready for that type of financial burden, and I wasn't ready for that type of undertaking. Going through this process walked me through every bit of that. Hey, take this step, get that accomplished. Take this step, get that accomplished. And if you have time, do this one. And, just like I said earlier, that ladder's there. You just got to take one step at a time.
Yeah, yeah, it's man, it's so true. And what has it been like now transitioning from you? I mean, you had a unique job before. You were out fighting fires, right? So it's not like you were used to sitting behind a desk all day.
Yes.
Um, although towards the end you kind of did. But how's it been like now figuring out, managing family life with the business and especially because the first year is not easy, right? You're
No.
scrambling to get things up and going. So what's that been like for you?
It's been a little bit of an up and down just because it's getting used to a new routine, a new program. As far as family life goes, I have not in the last 10 years since my kids have been alive had a summer off, and we've gone camping 4 times already this summer. I'm still making money all week long and enjoying the heck out of it, every minute of it.
Wow, man, that's so cool. I mean, and how old are your kids?
I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
3-year-old and 6-year-old. So like that's time you can't get back.
No, nope. And like I said, it was a blessing. That fear is one thing I know a lot of people struggle with. That fear of like, oh boy, I signed the agreement and now I'm in it. What do I do now? Take a step back, take a deep breath, and ask a question.
Yeah, for sure. What advice would you give to someone who's in the earlier stages of the buying process, or they're still kind of trying to figure out if franchising is right for them, and they're also looking and kind of dabbling at different sort of opportunities, not really sure what they want to buy. I'm sure you can remember being at that point. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
What advice would you give someone like that?
You'll feel it. You'll feel it. You'll be like, that's me right there. That's me. That's what I need to do. Call these franchise owners. When I was going through my Head Start or Sure Start coordinator, they call it with Housemaster, gave me 3 phone numbers to call of franchise owners. I called 9. I took it upon myself to find 6 more phone numbers, and I called them because I wanted to make sure I was making the right decision for myself, my family, my future, and something that I'm going to love and want to do for the foreseeable future. I know you and I talked the other day. I'm already looking at hiring, getting this managered, and multi-branding.
Yeah. Again, that's one of the things that I've admired about you through this entire process is just how proactive you are. You're not reactive. You're not sitting there waiting for the answer, or it's like you've always grabbed the bull by the horns and been proactive from early on in the process. And from my perspective, that's the difference between the people who are successful and wind up actually even buying a franchise and turn out to be the more successful franchisees. They're not waiting for answers or for someone to blame. They're going out there and figuring it out. And you have that like figure shit out mentality.
And I think you kind of have to either have that or develop a little bit of that, because you're going to make you as successful as you want to be or unsuccessful as you are. I hate report writing. My reports are 100 pages long. I do 2 sections and I do 20 burpees, maybe walk up and down the hallway a few times, do 2 sections, do 20 burpees. And that gets me through it. I'm moving, and I'm getting a workout while writing a report. There's certain tactics. I like to think of everything as positively as you can, and then the negative is just going to make it what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I love that mindset. And a little bit of a shameless plug here for those of you who watch this. If you're sitting on the fence, you're trying to figure out franchising for you, you want help, reach out, schedule a call with our team, a strategy call, and let's see if we can help you. I mean, Josh almost bought a gym. You would have paid 3 times the amount, if not more, probably 6 times the amount than you did to actually get into this business.
I think it was more around the 6 number, because we were when we were talking numbers, we were just talking about buildings. There was no equipment in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got in. Can you talk about that? Like how, like what kind of around what you were able to get into the business for, and the difference between going kind of home services versus, doing a retail business?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was looking at the gym space, low end, I was going to have to come in from the start, minimum of $350,000. This business, home inspection, my office is in my living room. My truck is in my driveway. My tools are in the back of that truck, and I got in around 75,000, and that was about median range for this business.
Wow, so cool. And the cool thing is that you went, full time in the business right away. So a lot of folks, you say, hey, well, I want to transition. I want to work my job while I start the business. Do you think you would have had the same traction that you have now in the business if you would have tried to do it semi-absentee?
Absolutely not. I think it would have been a side hustle. I would have bought a side hustle, and that's not what I got into this for. I bought a business that I'm going to run and I'm going to operate, and eventually delegate those tasks. And if I would have stayed with the forest, and there's no way I would have kept this traction through the whole process.
Mm, yeah. And so it's scary making that full-time leap, but often, my belief is that when people's backs are against the wall, they figure out a way to show up and make it happen, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, when you do go in full, I quit my job. I went in this full head first. You have to. You have to. That's your that's your job now. You have to. So that for me lights a fire. I'm the type where like that wall is going to take a minute before it touches my back.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Cool, man. Well, Josh, thanks so much for, just taking some time out to do this, to share your story, your message. I know confidently that someone will watch this and will be inspired by your story and will wind up taking action. And whoever that is that's out there that winds up watching that, I hope you let us know. Email me once you do so I can let Josh know. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you want to, close with, or kind of say, or advice that you want to drop before we wrap?
If you're watching this, yeah, reach out to me too. I'm available on all social media platforms, Joshua Lusk. And if you have any other questions, I am all about helping others.
Yeah, awesome, man. Actually, I have one last question. I just remembered.
Absolutely.
So you are unique that you started creating social media content to get business. So it's not something that a lot of people do or want like to figure out. So tell us about that. What did you do? How did you do it? And how does it even work?
So, like we said, I spent the last 10 years of my life where cell phone service isn't a thing and my face is in the dirt. So now I get into franchise and they're like, hey, you need to get on this social media and post like every week, at least once a week. And I'm like, nope, not me. I'm not doing that. And they're like, I swear, just try it a little bit. And I used to always give my coworkers in the fire service crap for using TikTok. And I'd be like, oh, you guys are on that TikTok again. And just, well, guess what? I'm now on TikTok and I post videos about once a week and they get over 1,000 likes. It's insane. For me, just doing what I'm doing. And that's actually huge too. When you get into this, people like to see you doing your business. They want to see you in your community. They want to see you out and about, smiling and having a good time.
Man, that's so cool. Social media is amazing. And
It is.
Use it.
Oh, it's coming from me, use it, because I was not a social media guy, and now I'm all about it.
That's awesome, man. Cool, Josh. All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us. Go enjoy your time with your family and the kids, and keep crushing it, man.
Absolutely. You have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.